Workshop 101. My name is Heidi Luella, and I'm the K-8 Instructional and Literacy Coach for Bensalem School District. This video will focus on the mini lesson. Before we dive in, let's look at what makes the reading workshop successful. Think of the reading workshop as a three-legged stool. Each leg, structure, intentional instruction, and accountability, is a necessary component. If one leg is not sturdy, then the entire stool will fall over. The same goes for the workshop. The purpose of today's video is to focus on the structure leg of the three-legged stool, more specifically the structure of the mini lesson. While the structure is only one of the three legs on the stool, it is essential. Without structure, the workshop could be an incredible struggle for teachers. A lot of times, any classroom management struggles that I come across are the result of faulty foundation in the structure. So you definitely want to spend your time here. The time we spend in reading workshop is like a pie cut into slices. There are several slices to the pie, but two most important ones are the mini lesson, the small slice, and the independent work, which is the largest piece. The mini lesson, that smaller piece, is meant to be from 7 to 12 minutes and has a pretty tight structure to keep it concise. Without focusing on the structure for the mini lesson, teachers may find themselves using a much longer period of time, which then takes away from the valuable work necessary in the independent time. The mini lesson is broken down into 6 parts: connection, teaching point, modeling, guided practice, make a plan, and the send-off. While the connection comes first, we want to consider the teaching point before anything else. It's the heart of what we're doing each day, so we're going to start there. In a reading workshop, we are not teaching books or texts. What we are doing is teaching skills through strategies that can be used with any text. The teaching point names the skill and strategy that is the focus for the lesson. Readers do a skill by using a strategy. For example, readers may infer about character motivation by examining what characters do, say, and think. Once we know the teaching point, then we can create a connection to get started. Our units of study books share connections that teachers who have written the units and have used the units have used, but they don't always work for me. For example, a lesson in the 6th grade unit uses the football team from Buffalo, and I really can't pull off a football connection. And also, the Buffalo team probably isn't going to work well for my students who are more Eagles fans. I often create my connections using my own children, and my students always enjoy hearing who I'm going to talk about each day. So my connection for this teaching point might be something like, readers, yesterday was really hard. My Matthew came home from school, and he was just plain rude and nasty to me. He was having a fit over just about everything, and I was thinking about it later when he went to bed and thought, why was he being so mean and rude? I could have just said, you're being so disrespectful, and maybe even grounded him. But then I thought I should have asked him if something happened at school. Sometimes Matthew will have a tough day at school and take it out on me because I'm his safe person, and it's easier to get all of his anger and frustration out on me than the person he's really upset with. Can any of you relate to that? Then I thought, characters do this too. They act a certain way at times, and there's a reason behind if we really think about it. So today, I'm going to teach you how to infer about character motivation by examining what characters do, say, and think. Then I give them a strategy, something like this. To do this work, we're going to read and stop after an intense scene. Then we're going to look at the way the character is acting in an intense moment and think, why? Watch me try this work. We're now moving into the modeling portion of the mini lesson. We can use the read aloud, the mentor text, an excerpt from something in the classroom library. I'm going to show you this work using an excerpt from Genesis Begins Again by Alicia D. Williams. I just finished reading this, and it's really an awesome book, and it's in the classroom library. So let me read this excerpt to you. But as soon as we rounded the corner of my block, My heart skips like a scratched CD. Not again. Please, not again. But yes, again. All of our furniture sits in the front yard, but this time it's laid out exactly like it had been inside the house, as if the movers were playing a cruel joke. Our glass living room table sits in front of the couch with a cocktail table on each side. The kitchen chairs are properly placed with the dining table. Even our beds are still made with the blankets and pillows. "This your house?" Regina says, flicking her long braids. No. Dad, didn't he know today was epic for me?" "I live over there," I say, pointing to a house where the metal bars on the security door swirl in an elegant design. "She lying," Fatima butts in. "I saw her go in this one the other day." This one is a small brick house with peeling green trim, chipped up cement steps, and straight metal bars on the doors and windows like a prison. Now I understand what Grandma means when she says, "There's always one." Regina snorts. "Hey, y'all, Genesis got to pee outside." Then she throws back her head and bursts out laughing. The other three start laughing too, a bunch of copycats. I open my mouth, but nothing comes out. They're whispering and pointing, and my family's stuff is sitting in the yard. "You know what?" I finally come up with. "I forgot. My mama said we're getting new furniture." Angela raises an eyebrow, high. "Not with that big old metal thing covering the doorknob, you ain't." They all swivel their heads at the same time and mutter, "Dang." "Nobody's getting through that door besides the landlord," Angela jabs. Regina turns to me, smirking. "Just admit it. Your folks are bums." Okay. That was an intense moment. Let me stop and think about Genesis. Did you see how she was lying? Let me move this so you can see the strategy again. Okay. I could just say that she's a liar, but I think there's more to it. Why would she lie like that? I noticed that it felt like she was in a group, but she wasn't really in the group. It felt like more like three girls were ganging up on her. That's not really being in the group. I wonder if she wants to really be part of this group, but she's embarrassed and wants to fit in, so she's lying to try to belong. Did you see how I did that? I read and stopped after an intense scene. I looked at the character and how the character was acting, and I asked why, to think about the motivation behind the behavior, in this case, the lying. After we model, we want to give the students a taste of practicing this work. Think about the other girls that were with Genesis, Regina, Fatima, Angela. How are they acting? And ask yourselves, why? This is where teachers, you will want to eavesdrop and coach in if necessary. Give a short period of time, not even enough to fully finish their conversation. Maybe like a minute. Then share some of what you heard. Wow, I heard lots of thinking. This partnership was talking about how they were real mean girls and thought maybe they were being mean because they also wanted to be part of the group. And so they went along with how they were all acting to fit in. And I heard this other group over here mention that maybe they were trying to keep the attention off themselves. Maybe their families were struggling too, but they don't want anyone to know. Maybe they were trying to make themselves feel better about their own situations by being mean to someone else. Then you move into making a plan. You want your readers leaving the mini lesson with a plan for the kind of work they're going to do in independent reading today. What you did in the mini lesson is one strategy you might add to the anchor chart of possibilities, like this one that comes from a 6th grade unit in our units of study. Each time you're teaching a mini lesson, you're adding to the chart, and that becomes almost like a menu for options of what kids could use, in addition to other strategies you'll be teaching during the independent time in small group and conferring. Now, they're not all expected to leave the mini lesson to do the same work. So you want to say something like, you might want to try this workout today, but turn and talk. What are your plans for today? What are you going to focus on while you're reading? And then you want to eavesdrop in, coach in if necessary, to make sure that everyone has a plan before reading to go to the independent time. And then you can send them off to that independent work, which is a large chunk. And we're going to focus on that large chunk and what that structure looks like in another video. This predictable routine keeps everyone, you and your students, focused. It's a time for you to model and show your thinking using a strategy while the students hyper-focus. It's not a time to ask questions. There will also be a short period of time for students to try that work out in the guided practice, which is with a partner. And during that time, you want to eavesdrop. You want to collect formative assessment data. You want to listen for possible things to share. You might even need to coach in if necessary. The focus of this 7 to 12 minutes of instruction is to expose readers to the rigorous work. The mini lesson and the units are often work that is on or above grade level. It's not meant to be work that's mastered in that 7 to 12 minutes. It's been said that if they leave the mini lesson firmly having that skill, then they came to the mini lesson already having that skill. So expose them to the rigor, give them that taste of that supported practice with a partner, and then get out, because the real work is going to be during that independent time. You want to think about the tools in your toolbox. In our toolbox during workshop, some of our important tools include things like small group instruction. That is one of your strongest tools that you're going to use during the independent time. Conferring is another one of your strongest tools that you're going to use during that independent time. Your weakest tool in the toolbox is actually the mini lesson. And so you don't want to waste your valuable time by spending a lot of it in your weakest tool. There are some common pitfalls until you and your students are strong in the structure. You will have to teach every aspect, everything from where they go during the mini lesson, how do they get there, what do they bring, how do they hold their questions, how do they turn and talk, how do they hyper-focus, everything. You don't want to take anything for granted. The more that you practice these routines and teach them in the beginning, the more you're going to save time in the long run. Another pitfall is expecting mastery of the mini lesson. Remember, it's about exposure to rigorous work and not about wasting time on your weakest tool. I've seen teachers want to spend 3 days on one skill and strategy because kids just weren't getting it. This will cause a lot of frustration for you and your student, and it's a big time waster. Asking for volunteers or calling on kids to speak, not knowing what they're going to say, that eats up a lot of time. Use the method of eavesdropping and sharing out some of the ideas you heard. Oh, I heard over here, this group said, and I heard over here. Even if you didn't hear them, if you wanted to add something in, it's okay to do that. Finally, expecting everyone to leave to do the same work will cause some issues as well. For some, they're not developmentally ready for the work, but still need to have the exposure. We're going to get more into this in the videos for the independent time. For others, they may not be in the part of the book that really lends itself to the work that you did during the mini lesson. So students need to learn how to make a plan for their own reading based on where they are developmentally and where they are in their book. And we're going to get into that in future videos. So just to recap, the mini lesson is a predictable routine for you and the students. It's broken into parts. There's the connection, the teaching point, modeling, a taste of that guided practice, making a plan, and sending them off. Look for more videos on structure in the near future. Have a great day.